The void beyond the Milky Way shimmered with 1,000 distant lights, each a whisper of life or a tune waiting to be discovered. The alien armada had traversed eons, charting worlds with cold precision, confident that when they approached Earth, the conquest would be easy. They had seen planets reduced to dust, civilizations crumbling under the weight of their own technology. But Earth was different. When they arrived, there were no warnings, no desperate last messages, no panicked signals piercing the void. Just silence. Absolute silence. At first, they considered it a blessing a civilization eradicated so efficiently that the aftermath required no further attention. But as their ships descended over shattered cities, smoldering forests, and oceans boiling under strange chemical fires, a creeping unease began to gnaw at the crew. Something had survived. Not humans, no. Something had been left, watching, waiting, and leaving no trace. Then the aliens began to realize the truth. There were no survivors of the Earth assault because those who had died had taken a terror with them that no words could ever contain. And the universe, vast and indifferent, had been spared from hearing it, but only until now. Captain Leora Zell, commander of the Zitharon Vanguard, hovered over the ruined Earth landscape through the ship's panoramic viewport. Her 3 eyes, each a different wavelength, traced the contours of the planet's broken cities. There were no signals, no electromagnetic pulses of panic, nothing but a desolate quiet that felt wrong. Behind her, the bridge hummed with a nervous energy that even the most stoic of officers couldn't hide. "Lieutenant Varric," Leora said, her voice low, "begin the surface sweep. Let's confirm, if there's nothing left, we need to move on." Varric's mandibles clicked nervously. "Confirmed, Captain." Deploying drones. The first drone, sleek and black, launched into the atmosphere and pierced through the stormed remnants of New York City. Its sensors picked up the scorched steel skeletons of skyscrapers, rivers clogged with debris, and streets lined with burned-out vehicles. No life signs, no signs of resistance. Just destruction. Leora frowned. Something about the absence of struggle didn't sit right with her. On previous campaigns, even the swiftest assaults left traces, panic broadcasts, fires that spread out of control, sporadic human counterattacks. Here, every trace of resistance was gone. Too clean. "Bridge, you feel that?" asked Tervon, the ship's communications officer, his voice a low vibration in the metallic hull. "It's silence. Not just the absence of signals. There's a pattern. It's like the planet itself is holding its breath." Pattern or paranoia? Leora countered, though her stomach twisted at the same feeling. Varric's drone descended further, entering a suburban area once bustling with life. The houses were intact, but doors hung open like gaping mouths. Inside, the remnants of humanity's daily life were frozen in place, half-eaten meals, overturned chairs, television still broadcasting static. Not a corpse, not a mark of death, just an empty world that felt observed. Then the first anomaly appeared. The drone's sensors flickered as it scanned a small park. Shadows moved. Not from the wind, not from stray animals. Shadows that were impossible, writhing, shifting with intelligence. The drone's recording feed froze. When it re-established, all shadows were gone. The park was still, silent, waiting. "Captain," Tervon whispered, "I'm detecting organic residue in the shadows, but nothing alive. It's as if something passed through existence itself." Leora's 3 eyes narrowed. She'd faced horrors before, but the sensation that the planet was alive in its absence of life made her mandibles twitch in unease. "Prepare the ground teams. We land at the nearest settlement. I want direct reconnaissance. No drones this time." On the surface, Commander Jason Carter and his squad of human mercenaries, hired by the aliens to guide the invasion, stepped carefully through the rubble. Carter's jaw was tight, his eyes scanning. He had fought in Afghanistan, Syria, and conflicts on distant colonies, but nothing had prepared him for the stillness of Earth. "Looks abandoned," muttered Sergeant Emily Nolan, her boots crunching on broken glass. "Where's everyone?" Carter's fingers brushed against a scorched wall. The heat was residual, not from any recent explosion. "Too fast, too clean," he said, frowning. "People don't disappear without screaming first." Something took them. Hours passed as the team scoured the streets.
Empty homes, abandoned vehicles, silent highways stretched endlessly.
Then they found the first bodies, but not in the way they expected. Human remains were perfectly preserved in frozen postures, mid-motion, as though stopped by some invisible force. One man was bent over his keyboard, fingers still hovering over the keys. A woman clutched her child, their faces twisted in eternal horror. No blood, no burns, just arrested terror.
Emily shivered.
It's like they froze. Carter shook his head, dread creeping in.
No.
Something made them stay like that. And whatever it wasn't human. Back on the ship, Leora observed the transmissions. Her stomach churned as she realized the truth. Earth had been destroyed in a single, overwhelming assault, but the humans hadn't just died. Their fear, their understanding of what had attacked them, had been so profound that it was contagious, even across the void. Something in that terror had crossed the boundaries of their reality, and it left nothing behind, not survivors, not witnesses.
Nothing that could speak of it.
The aliens had assumed victory. Instead, they had inherited a warning written in silence. And slowly, the first whispers of dread crept into the minds of those aboard the Zitharon Vanguard. The sun had long vanished behind a thick, smoky haze as Commander Jason Carter's team pressed deeper into the remnants of Manhattan. Even the sky seemed reluctant to show its light, heavy with ash and a strange luminescence that made shadows curl unnaturally. The streets were a labyrinth of silence, each corner revealing frozen scenes of human life, yet every figure radiated the same unspoken terror.
Sergeant Emily Nolan's breathing grew shallow.
"Carter, do you feel that?" she asked, pointing to the alley ahead. The darkness seemed thicker there, almost tactile, like a living thing pressing against her chest. Carter's hand rested on his pistol, but he didn't raise it. He sensed it too, the awareness that they were being observed, not by eyes, but by something that understood their every motion.
"Yeah," he murmured.
"Stay close.
Don't make any sudden moves."
One of the squad, a young soldier named Ricky Hayes, stopped mid-step. His face blanched. I think I hear them."
Emily frowned. "Hear who?"
Ricky's eyes were wide, panicked. "Whispers, screams, but no one's talking.
It's like they're inside my head."
Carter froze. The hair along his neck prickled. He had heard stories of soldiers hallucinating under extreme stress, but the voices didn't belong to his team. They weren't human, they carried an unnatural cadence, a tone that clouded memory and reason. The squad moved cautiously, following the sound or maybe being led by it. The streets twisted, unfamiliar now, as if the city had reshaped itself around them. Buildings they had passed an hour ago now appeared behind them, the layout defying logic.
Emily whispered, "It's not just the city.
Something's manipulating reality, the shadows, the streets, even time feels wrong." Suddenly, the whispers coalesced into a guttural chorus. The sound wasn't words, but a flood of terror, visions of impossible things invading their minds, the collapse of stars, oceans boiling alive, human screams stretching across centuries. Ricky screamed, clutching his head, and fell to the ground. Carter grabbed him, trying to drag him to safety, but Ricky's body stiffened. His eyes widened in pure, paralyzing fear. And then, before anyone could react, his body vanished. Not a mark, not a shred, simply gone.
Emily gasped. What just happened?" Carter didn't answer.
He realized with a sinking horror that the same force that had claimed Earth's population was now aware of them. It was patient, methodical, feeding on fear before striking. Back on the Zitharon Vanguard, Captain Leora Zell watched the feeds from the ground teams with growing unease.
"Tervon, explain this. The humans, why are they disappearing?"
Tervon's antennae twitched nervously.
"Captain, it's like the terror they experienced isn't just psychological. It's contagious. Like a virus embedded in their consciousness.
Exposure leads to erasure. Not death, but something beyond comprehension. Those who encounter it do not survive to recount it, even to themselves." Leora's mandibles clacked.
"We underestimated them."
Meanwhile, Carter and Emily pressed on, moving toward what had once been Times Square. The neon lights were dark, broken screens flickering static, yet the shadows moved of their own volition, gathering, watching. Every step they took amplified the whispers, the echoes of those who had perished. Emily's hands shook as she drew her sidearm. I can't stand it. It's. A new figure emerged from the shadows, not human, not fully alien, but something in between. Its form was fluid, as if made of liquid darkness, yet its presence radiated intelligence. It didn't speak, yet its thoughts flooded their minds. You see now. You understand why there are no survivors. This is terror perfected. Carter's stomach churned. What are you? The entity's consciousness collided with theirs, visions searing into their minds. Cities burned before they had even been built. Creatures rose from oceans, eyes like black holes swallowing the world. Human screams layered across centuries, each cry a link in an endless chain of horror. Carter fell to his knees, vomiting, as the sheer weight of it pressed into his soul. Emily grabbed his arm, her own mind fraying. We have to. But words failed them. The entity reached through memory and emotion, touching every hidden fear, every secret terror. And then it withdrew, leaving only silence and unbearable, deafening silence. The world seemed to breathe again, yet the memory of what they had experienced lingered, shaping reality itself. Back on the ship, Leora issued orders to recall the teams. Pull them out immediately. We cannot risk exposure. The planet, the force there, it's not just a defense. It's a judgment. But it was too late. The humans aboard the ground teams were forever changed. Carter and Emily could no longer speak coherently. Their thoughts were fragmented, consumed by what they had glimpsed. When the drones scanned the area again, there was no trace of the humans except for the faint residual impression of fear, lingering like radiation in the air. Leora's three eyes narrowed as she processed the reality. Earth had been more than a planet. It had been a weapon, or perhaps a lesson, crafted by an intelligence that measured terror itself. The aliens had come expecting conquest. Instead, they had confronted something utterly alien, the embodiment of fear that left nothing behind, not even testimony. Tervon, the survivors, if there are any, could they ever speak of what happened? She asked, her voice betraying an unease she rarely allowed. Tervon's tone was grim. Not without unraveling completely, Captain. This phenomenon is beyond biological comprehension. It erases memory, perception, and ultimately, identity. Those who survive do so in silence, their minds broken, incapable of conveying the horror they've witnessed. Leora exhaled slowly, the weight of her decision pressing down. Then we must leave. Chart a course out. We cannot linger. Not for observation, not for conquest. Humanity has shown us the price of curiosity. As the Zitharon vanguard lifted off, the ruined Earth receded below them, silent yet alive in its absence of life. Leora felt a chill in her consciousness, the echo of something vast and unknowable stretching through the void. And for the first time, the aliens understood why no survivors of the Earth assault had ever told a tale. There was nothing left to tell. The Zitharon vanguard drifted silently above Earth, its shadow stretching across the broken remnants of a planet that had once teemed with life. Captain Leora Zell's three eyes scanned the surface, unblinking, yet the unease in her consciousness deepened. The further they observed, the more she realized that this was not merely a battlefield, it was a warning. Below, the cities were frozen in a grotesque tableau. Humans were everywhere and nowhere at once, captured in fleeting gestures, frozen mid-step, faces contorted in terror that no lens or scanner could fully capture. The planet itself pulsed faintly, as if inhaling and exhaling, alive in its absence of life. Tervon, Leora said, her voice taut, we underestimated the phenomenon. How can this force exist? It's not physical. Not even psychic, in the way we understand. And yet it annihilates everything it touches, leaving nothing behind, not even testimony. Tervon's antennae twitched uneasily. It is fear incarnate, Captain. Or perhaps it is the collective will of a species whose terror reached a threshold we cannot fathom. Humanity experienced something so profound, so utterly incomprehensible, that their minds broke reality itself in response. That is why no survivors remain to tell a tale.
Leora's mandibles clicked in agitation. And if it touches us? Turvan hesitated. Exposure is dangerous. Our kind are not immune.
The phenomenon interacts with consciousness, perception, and memory.
Even our advanced cognition may not shield us.
Prolonged observation could erase us.
Leora's stomach twisted. She had conquered worlds before, yet here was a planet that demanded restraint. Curiosity could destroy her crew. Fear settled like a weight in her chest, a subtle echo of the horror below.
Meanwhile, on the ground, a single remaining drone recorded a faint anomaly near the ruins of Central Park. A shadow moved independently, unbound by physical law, twisting with impossible angles. The feet flickered, then stabilized, showing an impossible sight. The ground itself seemed to ripple, folding space like water. And then, a whisper entered their minds, not words, not sound, but understanding.
Do not linger. Leave, or you will become the next story that cannot be told.
Carter's team, or what remained of it, was gone. There were no screams, no remains.
Only residual terror clinging to the air, like a toxic miasma. Emily Nolan's consciousness, if it could be called that, lingered as fragmented impressions, scattered thoughts of absolute dread. The aliens now understood why no human survivor could recount the events. Fear had preserved the story, but only as an absence, an untranslatable truth. Leora's hands clenched. She realized the grim inevitability they had come expecting to conquer. They would leave with nothing but memory, and memory could be lethal.
Suddenly, the shadow in the park shifted again, coalescing into a vaguely humanoid form.
It wasn't attacking, but it was aware.
Every pulse of its presence sent tremors through the minds of those on the ship. Leora felt her consciousness strain, the edges of her perception fraying.
Turvan! Shield the crew!
Isolate our minds, she barked. A lattice of psychic defenses flickered into place, but the shadow paused, almost contemplative, as though weighing their worth. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it receded, leaving behind an emptiness that was louder than the screams they had glimpsed moments ago.
The Zitharon vanguard shuddered as if the planet itself acknowledged their decision. Leora gave the order to depart.
Engines ignited, piercing the smoky sky, and they ascended into orbit.
From space, Earth seemed peaceful, almost serene, but that was a lie.
The silence was the legacy of terror, not the absence of life.
Turvan, Leora said, her voice hollow, we've seen countless planets destroyed, civilizations eradicated. None of them communicated the weight of fear like this.
We barely survived our own curiosity. Turvan's voice was almost a whisper. It is the first of its kind, Captain.
The first planet whose annihilation carries a message too potent for survivors to tell. We may carry its echo, but the universe will never hear the story from Earth itself.
In the quiet that followed, Leora reflected on the paradox of what they had witnessed. Humanity, fragile and insignificant by alien standards, had become an architect of an unspeakable force. Not through technology, not through conquest, but through the profound intensity of their fear, their capacity to experience horror beyond comprehension. Carter and Emily, if they survived at all, were gone. Their memories, their thoughts, had been consumed by the entity that had claimed Earth, leaving nothing that could be shared. The aliens realized a terrifying truth: some stories could not be told.
Some horrors were too vast, too perfect, to survive transmission. Leora's final order was a silent one: never return.
The Zitharon vanguard charted a course out of the system, leaving Earth behind. The crew avoided looking at the planet, fearing that even a glance might imprint fragments of the terror into their minds. And yet, in the cold reaches of space, the echo persisted. Not as words, not as images, but as a presence.
A warning. A memory that could not be translated, yet could not be ignored.
Captain Leora Zell, staring into the void, whispered a thought she could barely admit to herself. Some stories are not for the living.
Some truths are too terrifying to survive. Earth disappeared into the blackness of space, silent, still, and yet alive in its absence.
And in that silence, the universe remembered a terror it had never truly understood and would never hear told. The galaxy moved on, oblivious, unaware that somewhere, a whisper of fear lingered, waiting for the next mind curious enough to glimpse it.